We know that getting better at anything requires time to practice and gain experience, and to have that time, you need to stay motivated and enjoy the process. If you're constantly feeling defeated and hating the process, then you're going to give up, throw in the towel, and never get to the point where you experience the fruits of your labor. And this is especially true in dating, where people feel constantly frustrated, rejection, and just don't want to try anymore. I'm Nick Notas, and today I'm going to give you the 3 mindsets to recognize that are crushing your motivation and results in dating, so you can start to see more success and fulfillment in your romantic life. The first is that you're trying to do too much too soon. We all know that Rome wasn't built in a day, and what that means is that the answer to getting good at anything starts with patience and finding small ways to chip away at it. They actually have a term for this in psychology, which is called flow. And it's finding that perfect balance between, pushing your comfort zone a little bit, but still in a way that's manageable to do, but not so much that it becomes overwhelming and basically you can't succeed at it. And I find this really commonly with men, where they have this kind of black and white thinking where they want to hit a goal, like they want to be able to introduce themselves to women. And their pride gets the best of them, and they just think, okay, I have to go up to a bunch of beautiful women, I have to introduce myself smoothly, I have to have great body language, I have to hit it off, I have to be charming, and I have to get their number. But guess what? If you've never done that before, you're asking way too much of yourself, because inevitably when you start something new, you're going to feel more clunky about it, you're not going to be as present, you're not going to have the same skills you do, and you're putting too much pressure on yourself to accomplish something that might be out of your reach. So then it builds up all this anxiety, they think about it, they're like, I can't do this, and then maybe they don't even introduce themselves to anyone, and they feel like a failure. But in reality, there's so many smaller steps you can take that are going to expose yourself to these situations, build your confidence, build your skills, and then you can work your way up progressively. And the funny thing is by taking smaller steps, you actually accelerate the process quicker. So instead of thinking, okay, I need to walk up to the most beautiful woman in this place and hit it off and get her number, you just think, okay, maybe I'm going to walk up to that person, start a conversation, and after 3 minutes, leave no matter what. So that you're removing the chance of having to get an objective or worrying about the rejection. Or maybe that's still too hard, where then you scale it back and you only have to hold a conversation for 2 minutes. Or even just say a comment in passing to somebody, where maybe you just make an offhand comment about their dress, or you ask them what they're drinking, and then you say, cool, I'll see you later, cheers, boom, and leave. Maybe that's too hard, where you're really intimidated by the women that you're attracted to, so you're going to talk to some women that you're more comfortable with, or a group of guys, or even the working person at one of these stores or a bar where you know they have to be friendly to you. And maybe that's still too hard. So instead, you just think about, how can I make eye contact with people across the room, where when we actually lock eyes, I'm going to hold it for a few seconds and not immediately break it, which I normally do. Because this is setting a foundation that when you actually do walk up to somebody and introduce yourself, you need to hold eye contact for a few seconds so that they feel warm to you and they can relax, and that's how we make a good first impression. You can apply this to anything. I have people that are like, I don't know how to network in business, I don't even know where to start. Okay, start at square one. Think about 5 people that you want to reach out to and connect with, and just put their name in an Excel sheet or a Google sheet. Then the next day, maybe you find out their contact information and add that to the doc. Then maybe the next day, you think about writing the first paragraph of an outreach email that you would actually send. The next day, you complete that email, and then the next day, you start with 1 person. The problem is that everybody wants results fast and right now, when that's just not how it actually works. And part of that is because we compare ourselves to everybody else's highlight reels. From the outside, if you're on social media or anything else, you see people's successes and you're like, oh man, it comes so easily for them. They're so great at this. Why can't I be like that? And what you don't see is all the hard work that went into that. All the small steps they put in, all the times they failed, all the times they had to tweak their approach and try something new. And instead, you're unfairly comparing yourself to something that is not real. So get really good at breaking down your goals into manageable chunks and trust the process, and the results will come. So that leads me to point 2, which is to stop focusing on only the results and think about the efforts that you can put in, which are under your control. Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that's ever really in your control. No matter how good you get at something, you cannot control the external world. I have talked to literally thousands and thousands and thousands of new strangers, and I consider myself pretty good at randomly striking up conversation, and I can introduce myself to almost anybody, and guess what? I still do not get warm responses from every single person I talk to. In fact, it's really uncomfortable at times where I take a guy out on a retreat, and we go up and walk to a group of women or a group of people, we start a a conversation and some of them are not really feeling me. And that happens sometimes. But if every single time an end result or an outcome doesn't go your way and you immediately blame yourself and say this sucks, then you are 100% going to give up really quickly. Imagine if you try to pick up a guitar and wanted to play like Jimi Hendrix, and then you couldn't, and you were like, this sucks, and you just smash the guitar. Okay, that's not realistic. You know that it's going to take time to focus on holding a note correctly, hand positioning, eventually getting into chords, and doing all these building blocks that are under your control and the effort you can put in, and not just saying, well, why can't I play this 4-minute song perfectly? Because if you're putting in the right efforts, inevitably you will grow and see success. But there is an element of luck and chaos in the world that you cannot control. So a great example I give is when you're thinking about going to ask a woman out and getting her number. Instead of framing your goal as, did I invite her out and get her number, think of it more as your effort, which is, did I even attempt to invite her out? Instead of framing your goal as, did I get a kiss on a date, think, did I even go for the kiss on the date? Instead of thinking, did I hold a perfect conversation with this new person, think, did I try to remain present and really listen to them? And most importantly, you'll start to recognize these efforts as your wins, and that's what will keep you motivated because you'll see that you're actually implementing new ideas, you're trying new things, and you're putting yourself out there, and those are all victories. So if you focus on the things that you can control, you inevitably will start growing and get the results that you desire. And 3 is to stop talking like you would to your worst enemy and start talking more compassionately to yourself like you would a best friend. What I mean is that we are always unfairly hard on ourselves. But if we imagine a friend in the same exact situations we're in, we would never talk to them like that. Let's go back to the example of maybe you walked up to a woman for the first time, you introduce yourself, you try to go for a phone number, and she just wasn't interested. And what does your scumbag brain do? It immediately goes to, oh, you're such an idiot, I can't believe you did that, that girl would never be into you, or whatever negative self-talk you have going on. Now, if your friend was in that same exact situation and walked over to someone and tried to get their phone number and then came back with their head held down, what would you say to them? You would immediately be so much more warm and loving and compassionate, and you would try to support them. And you would say, hey, don't worry about it. That was a great try. Hey, it's no big deal. Hey, we'll talk to more people and it'll be fine next time. Or whatever other version of trying to build them up rather than tear them down. And so you need to start doing the same for yourself and actively change the way that you're talking to yourself after you experience these situations. You need to stop being unrealistic and realize how awesome it is that you're even doing these things. Like if you have never walked up to somebody and introduced yourself and tried to go for their number, then you should be insanely proud of yourself. You should be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I've never had the guts to finally walk up and do it. I'm so unbelievably proud of myself. And that's again the way that you would talk to a friend, no questions asked. Because most people think that they have a negative inner critic only because of their self-esteem issues or whatever other things that they're struggling with, when in reality, a lot of the time, it's just because it's been a habit that's been ingrained in you for decades. We inherently have a negativity bias where when something doesn't go our way, we immediately start thinking things like, what did I do wrong? Why am I not good enough? And why you'll always fail, and you start catastrophizing. So you just have to start changing the habit. This has been studied in psychology relentlessly through what they call gratitude practice. In fact, some of the top universities in the world, like Harvard and Yale, are running courses around this right now. With Yale, they have a class called the Science of Well-Being, which this is a big part of it, and it's been their most attended class in their entire student body of over 400 years. So the trick is to regularly practice gratitude about your efforts. And they actually have a little formula that you can use, which is, I am proud of X because Y. For example, I am grateful for introducing myself to that person because I know that I'm putting myself out there and consistently building courage. Or I'm glad that I reached out to that person because I know that I'm creating more networking opportunities for myself. Or even, I'm glad that I told that person on the date what I found attractive about them because I'm coming to terms with my sexuality and expressing that openly. Now the trick again is to focus on your efforts and find something that you're really proud of. And there's a few times that you can do this. You can do this after the moment of something happening. So maybe right after you walked up to introduce yourself to that person and then walked back to grab your drink so that you get ahead of it. Or you can set aside like a 5-minute block a few times a week where right before you go to bed, you think about 2 things that you're really proud of that you did that day. Or you tie it to an existing habit, like while you're brushing your teeth or in the shower, and you just reflect on your day, and again, you think about 2 things that you really appreciate that you did. Studies show that if you can keep this up for a few weeks, you generally have a better outlook, you feel more fulfilled on a regular basis, and you start to interpret the things happening to you in a much more positive light. Consistency is the key to anything, and I promise that if you shift your mindset in these 3 ways, you'll have more fun, you'll stay more motivated, and you'll get the results you want in dating. And if you enjoyed this video and you want more like it, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button.